Hey dads, welcome to Father Friend, a podcast for dads who want to lean in, lead well, and love big. I'm Dr. Mike Ayers. I was teaching a parenting workshop a few years ago, and during a break, one of the dads in attendance came up to me and asked if he could speak to me after the event. I told him I'd be happy to talk. His request seemed somber and serious, so, as the secure, self-confident person that I am, that's sarcasm, by the way, I began replaying in my mind the things that I had just said to the group, hoping that I had not stated something that offended him and possibly others. The subject that night included the idea that the way we see our individual children determines our attitudes toward them and the way we treat them, and in turn, the way our kids see themselves. I call it our projected vision of our children. In time, kids pick up on these subconscious signals from parents, internalize our judgments of them, and may act out from them. Whether we actually speak these judgments to them or not, children begin to believe about themselves what we as parents believe about them. After I finished teaching that night, some parents came up to thank me and ask a few quick questions. This particular father waited until the others were done and then approached. He was about 40 years old with a 14-year-old daughter and 2 younger boys. Without any casual introduction, he bluntly said, "That's me." I replied, "What do you mean?" He said, "I just realized it. That parent you described tonight, that's me." I asked him to help me understand. This initiated a rather long and intensely personal explanation by this father. He told me that he had become deeply convicted during the session about the way he actually viewed his daughter. She was his oldest, and at first, in her early childhood, she was the apple of his eye. He then described how over the years he began seeing her critically. He realized he had subconsciously set high expectations of her, and how, with passive-aggressive words and attitudes, my label, not his, he projected those demands upon her. He talked about how he was often frustrated when she didn't meet his hopes, and how her approach to things habitually irritated him. She obviously had a different personality than he did. He said, "It hit me hard while you were talking. I realized for the first time, I don't think I like my daughter. How could I feel that way about her?" He began to tear up. Psychologist Nathaniel Branden observed a pattern that explains exactly what this father was grappling with. He said, "In considering the many parental messages that may have a detrimental effect upon a child, there's probably none I encounter more often in the course of my work than some version of 'you are not enough.' The tragedy of many people's lives is that in accepting the verdict that they are not enough, they may spend their years exhausting themselves in pursuit of the holy grail of enoughness." Wow, what a powerful quote. This father had unknowingly been sending his daughter that very message, "You are not enough." And he could see the devastating impact it was having on her self-worth and their relationship. He came to a profound realization that often eludes many dads. Children begin to internalize the qualities we ascribe to them as undeniable truths. They accept these underlying and often unspoken judgments we possess about them and act from feelings associated with those judgments. Some children withdraw into self-condemnation and insecurity. Others rebel in anger and become overtly or covertly defiant. Still others become driven to prove themselves as adequate through performance and perfectionism. The latter was true of this man's daughter. Of course, projected vision can be a powerful force. Seeing your kids' positive qualities and believing the best about them, in turn, implants deep within them self-efficacy and self-love. Continuing the story, I then asked this father about his own upbringing. We talked briefly about the pain of his past relationship to his own father and what the source of those condemning feelings toward his child might be. After some discussion, it became clear to me, and thankfully to this dad, that while he needed a major adjustment, this man deeply loved his little girl and in fact liked many things about her. That he even respected her for gifts she possessed that he didn't, and at times felt softness in his heart for her. Yet his overriding attitude and the thing that he conveyed to his child was the belief that she was not enough. I'm happy to say he went home with the conviction to talk with his daughter, seek forgiveness from her, and with God's help, overcome his vision of her. This kind of self-awareness is critical for father friends. How do you see your children? This question matters more than you might realize because your vision of them is one of the most powerful influences upon how they see themselves and what they become. Your child's sense of how you view them flows directly from how you actually do see them, before your actions, words, attitudes, and tone ever come into play. Now, when we think about Jesus' relationship to his Heavenly Father, Jesus had no doubts about his full acceptance and approval. At the inauguration of his public ministry during his baptism, Jesus heard what every son longs to hear from their father. Here's what it says in Matthew 3:17. And a voice from heaven said, "This is my son whom I love. With him I am well pleased." Notice the public nature of this announcement and the pride expressed in the words of the Heavenly Father. Before the crowd there, the Father told the world that his Son was loved. Jesus heard God the Father announce his full pleasure in him. This validation before others met the very real human need within Jesus, that he would know that his Father was pleased with him. Think about the power of those words. This is my Son whom I love. With him I'm well pleased. This wasn't based on Jesus' performance or achievements. He hadn't performed any miracles yet. He hadn't preached any sermons or gathered any followers. This declaration came purely from the Father's love and delight in his Son. It was approval given, not approval earned. Your children need to hear the same message from you, not just once, but regularly, consistently, in ways that penetrate their hearts and shape their understanding of who they are. They need to know that they belong to you, that you love them unconditionally, and that you are well pleased with them, not because of what they do, but because of who they are. Here's a fundamental truth that transforms everything. By nature, worth is not meant to be achieved, but to be received. Sadly, in our world, we get that backwards. Many children grow up believing that love is earned and is a result of their performance and achievements. Yet, to feel genuine worth from within results from being loved unconditionally by someone you respect and esteem, someone bigger than you, bigger than life that you admire. And there's no one more powerful to do that than that guy called Dad. From the moment of birth, a God-ordained process begins in the heart and mind of every human being. This process involves a series of exchanges between the inborn character of a person and the external forces that shape that character. As we grow, these exchanges produce ideas of self that eventually bring resolution to the question, who am I? While in the initial years, the process is subconscious and natural, in older childhood, more conscious views of self emerge. Eventually, these notions become crystallized and a sense of self is achieved, a coherent whole that we call identity. The Bible gives us a beautiful picture of secure identity in Psalm 139, where David celebrates God's purpose in his creation. In verses 13 and 14, David proclaims, "For you, God, created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well." Now, it's obvious from the text that David knew who he was, celebrated who he was, and felt secure in those realities as understood in relationship to God. This framework for identity provides tremendous benefits. It results in our children feeling continuity from one situation to the next, inner strength to remain true to their values despite challenges and critique, confidence in their decisions, and the courage to take God-led risks. And your unconditional love builds this kind of unshakable worth. But when the search for self is not resolved positively, children respond in inadequate and destructive ways. A father plays a huge role in determining which path their children will take. Some turn aggressively to matters of external achievement, using accomplishments, power, popularity, and material gain to prove they are good, successful, and adequate. Others respond with internal withdrawal, becoming passive and fundamentally fearful, retreating from more confident people and challenging circumstances because they doubt their own worth and capability. The tragedy is that many children receive mixed or negative messages about who they are from the very people whose opinion matters most, their parents. Rather than reject these misconceptions, they accept them and internalize the judgments produced by them. They arrive in adulthood unsure of who they are, or worse, convinced they are fundamentally flawed and inadequate. This is why your role as a father is so crucial. You have the power to speak life or death into your child's developing sense of self. You can be the voice that says you are enough or you are not enough. You can help them discover the wonder of who God made them to be, or you can burden them with expectations that have nothing to do with their actual design. So I think there are 4 fundamental ways to see our children that have the power to actually transform their identity. These build that unshakable worth that I'm talking about today. Number one, see your kids as lovable. This goes beyond feeling obligated to love them because they're your children. This is genuinely about delighting in who they are, their personality, their quirks, their way of seeing the world. When children sense that their father not only loves them, but actually likes them and enjoys their company, it creates a foundation of security that nothing can shake. Children can sense the difference between dutiful love and delighted love. Dutiful love says, I have to love you because you're my child. Delighted love says, I get to love you because you're my child. The first feels like obligation. The second feels like privilege. Your children need to know that being their father isn't a burden for you to bear, but a joy for you to embrace. So first, see them as lovable. Secondly, see your kids as worthy of your time and energy. In our achievement-oriented culture, it's easy to give our best energy to work, hobbies, or other pursuits while giving our children whatever's left over. But when you consistently prioritize your children, listening to their stories, attending their events, engaging in their interests, spending time with them, you communicate something profound. You are worth my most valuable resource, my time. Time is the currency of relationship. When you spend time with your children, you're not just being present, you're making an investment that says, you matter. What matters to you matters to me. I want to know you, understand you, and be a part of your world. This doesn't mean you have to be available 24/7 or that healthy boundaries aren't important. It means that when you are with your children, they have your attention. Your phone doesn't compete with them. Your mind isn't elsewhere. They know that in that moment, they are your priority. So see your kids as lovable. See them as worthy of your time and energy. And third, see your kids as adequate for life's challenges. Many parents, often from a place of love and protection, communicate to their children that they are fragile, incapable, or need constant help to navigate life. While protection is important, there's a crucial difference between protecting children from age-appropriate dangers and communicating that they can't handle age-appropriate challenges. When you see your child as adequate, you believe in their God-given capacity to learn, grow, overcome obstacles, and handle the responsibilities appropriate for their stage of development. This doesn't mean throwing them into situations they're not ready for or being indifferent to their struggles. It means believing their potential and communicating that belief constantly. Children rise or fall to meet our expectations of them. If we expect them to be helpless, they often become helpless. If we expect them to be capable while providing appropriate support and guidance, they usually develop competence and confidence. And the fourth way to see your kids in a way that transforms their identity is to see them as uniquely designed by God. Every child has been fearfully and wonderfully made by God, with unique gifts, personality traits, and potential. Your job is to discover and affirm what God has placed in them, not to mold them into your image of what they should be. This means celebrating their individual uniqueness rather than constantly trying to change them. If your child is naturally introverted, you can help them learn to be friendly without making them become something they're not and shaming them in the process. If they're artistic rather than athletic, you don't need to make them play sports. If they process information differently than you do, you don't need to see that as a defect to fix. God has given each child a unique design for a unique purpose. Your role is to help them discover that design, develop their gifts, and learn to live confidently within who God made them to be. Because I like you, I love you, and I'd choose you are a father's most important words. When my kids were young, each night I would go into their room to read a book, pray with them, give them a kiss, and say goodnight. I began a bedtime ritual when each of them reached the age of 4 or 5, one that would continue for the next 3 to 4 years where I would periodically have this discussion with them. For example, with my oldest son, I said, Ryan, if we lined up all the boys in the whole world, which one would I choose to be my son? At first, he would say, would you choose me? I said, yes, I would choose you. And after a few times of doing that, in response to my question, Ryan would say more confidently, me, you'd choose me. I would say, that's right. Out of all the boys in the whole world, I would choose you to be my son. At about 8 years old, one night I said, Ryan, out of all the boys in the world, who would I choose to be my son? Ryan paused. And then he said, what if one of them played basketball better than me? I paused. I looked him in the eyes and I said, I would choose you. Then he said, "What if one of them was smarter?" I said, "I would choose you." Ryan thought for a second and said, "I'm glad you would choose me, Dad." I knew at that moment Ryan finally understood what I was trying to convey to him, that to me, he is enough, that I love him unconditionally, that there's nothing good that he could do that would make me love him more, and nothing bad he could do that would cause me to love him less, that I'm glad he's my son and that I would choose no other than him. I asked these questions of my children because I wanted them to have full confidence in my love and approval, that just as they are enough, that they do not have to earn my love. It already exists by the fact that they are my children. The beautiful result is this: when this full understanding of your approval is combined with credibility and trust, behavioral expectations, and a vision of them reaching their potential, the result is a healthy and powerful inner security that both fuels their ambitions and provides lasting emotional safety. What a great gift that is to give to our children. Because as they grow up, there will be one of two motivations your kids will possess, and both are tied to your love. Let me illustrate this with a story about two sons. Tim has a harsh and demanding father who seems impossible to please. One Saturday morning, Tim's father comes into his room and tells him to get up and mow the lawn. He says, "I want you to get out of that bed and go mow the yard. This time, do it straight because you messed it up last week and mowed it crooked and missed some. When you're done, don't forget to sweep off the sidewalk. And last week, you left clippings on the driveway. I thought I told you to sweep off all the clippings. After you're finished, put the mower back in the garage, and when I come home, I'm going to look at it to make sure you did it right. If it's not done correctly, you're grounded." So Tim goes out, motivated by his father to mow the yard. He tries to do the best he can because deep inside, he wants to prove to his father that he is capable to accomplish this task, that he's not the mess up his father sees. He mows as carefully and as straight as he can. When he's done, he sweeps off all the clippings from the sidewalk and the driveway. He puts the mower in the garage and returns to his room. A few minutes later, he hears the garage door open. He knows his father has returned home. All of a sudden, he has a very anxious moment, a fear that he might have forgotten something he was instructed to do. He hears his father's footsteps coming down the hallway, and he is desperately hoping that his dad will be pleased. That's Tim. Jack, on the other hand, has a father who conveys confidence and approval in his son. He simply sees him differently. His dad also expects the lawn to be mowed correctly too, but comes at it from a different perspective. One Saturday morning, Jack's father enters the boy's room and says, "Jack, I want you to get up and mow the yard today. You're really good at mowing the lawn. I'm sure you'll do a great job this time. Now don't forget to mow the rows straight like I showed you. When you're done, sweep off the sidewalk in the driveway. I know you'll do your best. After you're finished, put the mower back in the garage, and when I come home, I'll check it out, and if it's done well, we'll go to the movies today." So Jack goes out, motivated by his father, to mow the yard. He tries to do it the best he can because he knows his father has full faith in him. He mows as carefully and as straight as he can. When he's done, he sweeps off all the clippings from the sidewalk and the driveway. He puts the mower in the garage and returns to his room. A few minutes later, he hears the garage door open. He knows it's his father returning home. All of a sudden, he has a very excited moment because he's worked hard and is certain he has done well. He hears his father's footsteps coming down the hallway, but can't wait to hear his response. Plus, he's pretty excited to go to the movies. Now listen, there is no difference in the quality of the mowing between Tim and Jack. Both worked as hard as they could and both did excellent work. But there is a huge difference between the motivations of these two boys. You see, Tim worked to earn the approval of his father. Jack worked because he had the approval of his father. This distinction is absolutely critical. When children believe they must earn your love and approval through performance, they develop what psychologists call conditional worth, the belief that their value as a person depends on what they achieve. This creates either perfectionistic striving that never gets satisfied or giving up altogether because the standard feels impossible to reach. But when children know they already possess your love and approval, that it's not something they have to earn, but something they've been freely given, they develop unconditional worth. They work hard not because they have to prove themselves, but because they want to express the gifts and abilities they know you see in them. They take risks because failure won't change your love for them. They pursue excellence because it flows from security, not insecurity. Henry Nouwen captured the heart of what every child needs when he wrote, "Over the years, I have come to realize that the greatest trap in our life is not success, popularity, or power, but self-rejection. Self-rejection is the greatest enemy of the spiritual life because it contradicts the sacred voice that calls us the beloved. Being the beloved constitutes the core truth of our existence." That's a great quote. As fathers, we have the incredible privilege and responsibility of helping our children hear that sacred voice, not just God's voice calling them beloved, but our voice as their earthly father echoing the same truth. When children grow up knowing they are unconditionally loved and valued, they develop what researchers call secure attachment, a foundation that becomes the basis for healthy relationships and the courage to live authentically. Now listen, through Christ, God says to each of us, "I choose you. Just as you are, I love you. And nothing you could do could make me love you more or cause me to love you less. Through my Son, you are enough." What a gift you give your children when they hear that same message from you, not just in words, but through your presence, your tone, your delight in who they are, and your unwavering commitment to love them no matter what. This becomes the foundation upon which all other aspects of fatherhood are built, and it's the gift that will shape not only who your children become, but how they love their own children someday. The most important voice your kids will ever hear is yours. Every night when you tuck them in, every morning when you greet them, every conversation you have throughout the day, you have the opportunity to be the voice that says, "You are my child, whom I love. With you, I'm well pleased." That voice, heard consistently over the years of their development, becomes the emotional center that sustains them through every challenge they'll face in life. The question isn't whether your children will develop a sense of their own worth. They will. The question is whether that sense will be based on their performance and the shifting opinions of others, or on the unshakable foundation of knowing they are deeply loved and valued by the people who matter most to them, especially their father. Thanks for listening today. I'm Dr. Mike Ayers. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with other dads. I'd love to hear from you. Email me at mikea@fatherfriend.net with comments, questions, and your biggest takeaways. For more tools, resources, and real talk on fatherhood, visit fatherfriend.net or follow on social media @ThinkingDads. See you next time.